Good morning, everyone. All right. My name is Harold Rice, President and CEO of CETA, Community and Economic Development Association of Cook County in Illinois, basically Chicago. And I have here, I'm happy to have here as well, and I am the at-large member on the NCAF board as presented earlier, but I'm happy to have here my good buddy. We're not partners in crime yet, but we're getting there. President Adrian Fawcett out of New York of the Economic Opportunity Council in Suffolk in New York. We have an incredible honor of introducing the inaugural class of the Community Action Hall of Fame. The NCAF Board of Directors felt strongly that it is time for the Community Action Network to recognize some of the remarkable individuals who have helped lead and strengthen and inspire the community action movement. It is our hope that every year we can take a few minutes out of our busy schedule to say thanks to the great ones and to ensure that they are remembered forever, like you saw a little bit earlier today. This year, we are inducting Jesse Ombergy of Kentucky, who is honored as one of the founding members of Community Action, served as his agency's second ever executive director beginning in 1968 and helped form the Community State Association. Is he here?
JC here?
He's not here yet? Okay. Okay. And my good friend, this is a little emotional for me as well. So, Eugene Brady of Pennsylvania, a longtime NCAF board member, and whose proudest achievement was founding the Harry and Jeanette Weinberg Regional Food Bank, which provided 20 million pounds of food to the region during the pandemic. Charles Braitworth of Missouri and Robert Korat of Massachusetts, who were the co-founders of the NCAF and two of the most important leaders the community action movement has ever had. Dorothy Counts Scroggins of North Carolina, who crossed the color lines to integrate Harding High School, and her colleagues to recognize that she is one of the most important civil rights and community action leaders in the state. Tim Donnellan of Ohio, who has dedicated decades of his life to the community action and successfully expanded programs to incorporate urban and rural areas in need. Ophelia Gaines of Georgia, whose colleagues are continually motivated by her 44 years of service, tireless service, inclusive of leadership that expanded community action programs into 28 countries. James Him of New Jersey, who is the reason that many community action agencies work within the reentry population addressing inequities in criminal justice system and building programs and supports for individuals. Gail Hennessy of New Hampshire, who was the longest serving board member of the partnership and has had an understanding of politics second to none in community action. Kathy Hotkins of Utah, long-term NCAF board member, whose colleagues described her as the legend for her passion for people and advocacy and was integral to the starting of Cap Law. Dana Jones of the District of Columbia, whose colleagues described as a long-term social justice champion, a visionary, big picture, critical thinker, and an incredibly proud of his achievements in developing DC's largest construction training facility, and a key colleague readiness program, and making UPOs the largest early Head Start provider in DC. And Annette Lewis of Virginia, whose innovative leadership and extraordinary commitment made TAP a national leader in addressing low-income issues. Jim Morton of Montana, who is admired by his colleagues for his outstanding outreach, and creative approaches to affordable housing, healthcare, and food security. Rick Nation of Nebraska, who served his agency as executive director for 40 years, and whose colleagues described him as accomplishing incredible feats like growing his agency's budget from $500,000 to $13 million. James Norman of New York, who was instrumental in developing the Roma framework and whose colleagues have been inspired by his resolve to expand his agency's program to meet families' need. Dick Sievers of Iowa, who expanded his agency's capacity from 6 counties, assisted to 10, grew it from 5 to 10, and has testified in front of Congress on behalf of Community Action. And David Yonder of Maryland, whose colleagues said his statement, his statewide advocacy, has been instrumental in legislative wins for Maryland agencies. Today, we'll have the chance to hear directly from the inductees, their family, or the colleagues, either in person or by Zoom. So I'm asking you to please hold your applause until the end, and we ask all inductees to remain, if you come up on stage, just to remain here beside us. Now, without further ado, the NCAF Board of Directors proudly inducts Jesse Aubrey of Kentucky into the Community Action Hall of Fame, receiving the award in person on behalf of the Albergery family is Jesse's daughter, Leangela, already and his granddaughter, Sydney and Jessica Aubrey. If you're here, please. Thank you. You have some? Good. Yeah, please.
Good morning. My name is Jessica Lee Ambergy, and I was named after my grandpa, Jesse Lee. I grew up hearing about community action initiatives, Head Start, Job Site, housing, heating. I actually attended LKOP, which is our local community action for Head Start. And then later in life, I worked there through the summer programs from about the age of 15 until I graduated undergrad. So a lot of my life has been around community action initiatives as well. My grandpa, Lee's dad, Sydney's grandpa as well, he was a hero to many, to us especially. He taught us the value of serving others, which was in part an inspiration for me to pursue a public service degree. Mine is in medicine, but it allows me to work and serve the communities that he loved and he served throughout his life. I was raised to believe that knowing if even one life has breathed easier because I have lived is the epitome of success. It wasn't until years later that I learned that was a Emerson poem and not necessarily his words, but even though he didn't write them, or he may not have been the first to live by them, he did so with such a contagious passion that it's dropped down through generations. He would be so proud and happy to receive this recognition, and we're honored to accept it on his behalf. I want to acknowledge his contribution to community, which was obviously pretty lasting. He made a difference in so many ways, big and small. And last night we were listening to one of his interviews over the war on poverty, and this was something he said, and I wrote down. I thought it was pretty powerful. When asked if he thought it was a success, their initiative against poverty, his answer was, "We might not have accomplished all that we set out to, but we helped a lot of people." And I think that was his goal throughout his life, and hopefully we can embody that in our lives as well. He served his community throughout his life with passion and compassion, and this award means the world to me and my family.
Jesse was a great man. He was a great He should have been on it a long time ago. And also a good guitar player.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. I'll sing for you later. If you like.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
And because this is an important time in our life, in the inaugural launch of this, I will apologize to the Ambergy family for mispronouncing your name. So it is Ambergy, Jesse Ambergy. So please accept my apologies. The NCAF Board of Director proudly inducts Eugene Brady of Pennsylvania into the Community Action Hall of Fame, receiving the award via Zoom on behalf of the Brady family is Gene's family, Joan, Ed, and Gino.
Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you.
Are we hearing okay? Okay, very
Yes,
good.
yes, we
Good
can.
morning, everyone. This is Ed Brady, and on behalf of my brother Gino, my dad's partner Joni, and I thank you for this wonderful honor for my dad Gene. As many of you may know, we lost my dad in November 2022 after a battle with cancer. I know if he was here, he'd be humbled and, more than anything, brief in his remarks. I know that he would likely ask if it was possible to change his admittance into this inaugural Community Action Hall of Fame to reflect the entire organization at the Commission on Economic Opportunity, or as it's warmly known as CEO locally, as opposed to addressing him singularly. Indeed, my father was blessed to work with wonderful colleagues spanning 6 decades. In attendance to accept this award are Jennifer Warback, the Executive Director for CEO, his longtime colleague and friend David Ritter, Haley Tensley, and Rachel Altimos, additional colleagues who were kind enough to come to Washington to accept this. On behalf of Gino, Joni, and I thank you so much, folks, for being there in Washington, representing the entire CEO family, who I'm sure you know meant so much to him. I'd always joke that my father had 3 children. There were Gino and I, of course, but also CEO. This was especially obvious during the holiday seasons when he and the CEO team would be busy assuring that those in need would have food and essentials during the holiday. Gino, Joni, and I could all remember lots of Thanksgivings and Christmases where Dad would disappear to deliver holiday dinners to the elderly of our community or work at a local church serving meals. I truly believe he loved his work, and the mission of helping the underserved of his community and beyond that mission was always in his thoughts. While it's always pained him to see more and more people who needed assistance, he truly felt most effective assuring he could help children, the disabled, the elderly, and underserved families in Northeast Pennsylvania. As my father's career progressed, he expanded his mission outside of the region and into the national and state areas to advocate for those most in need, not only in northeastern Pennsylvania, but also throughout the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and indeed the country. He saw that food insecurity and inaccessibility to housing and education was a national problem. It continued to grow, and he worked closely with state legislators, Congress, and many of you to secure badly needed funding. My father's mark on community-based assistance indeed was indelible, and indeed his legacy. That said, my father truly was blessed. He was blessed because he didn't have a job working with CEO. Instead, he viewed it as a vocation. Sorry. I never recall my dad referring to his work as a job. Excuse me. Instead, he very much viewed it as a mission, and it was his life work, helping those who sometimes did not have a voice and were most in need. While he left us far too early, we can honestly say he led a rich, meaningful life in no small part because of his lifetime of community work. Again, on behalf of our entire family, we are humbled to accept this award on behalf of Gene. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your remarks. The NCAF Board of Directors proudly inducts also. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, thank you. The NCAF Board of Directors proudly inducts Charles Braithwaite of Missouri into the Community Action Hall of Fame. Receiving the award via Zoom is Charles' wife, Sandra. Sandra didn't make it?
Yeah, Sandra's not on.
Okay,
Let me say it just a
go
word.
ahead.
I know I'm speaking for Adrian, Hal, and all the board. Charles is one of the greatest people I've ever met in my life. Ran a good meeting, good sense of humor, a good family man, just an absolute staunch leader for community action. You know, I'm lucky that I've met a few people in my life. Shriver influenced my life, and the most. The second was Charlie, and the third is Bob Cord. So NCAF was incredibly lucky, fortunate, or smart when Bob and Charles put together the National Community Action Foundation. So I try to keep in touch with Sandra, and I'm disappointed she's not on. Wonderful, wonderful lady. But Charles, if any of you got a chance to meet him, he was a special, special guy. And Adrian, you want to say a quick word?
I remember I was new on the board, and I was intimidated by everybody. And Charles brought me on the side and said, "You're just as good as the rest of us," and believe that. So you're talking about somebody very special. And you also told me how to deal with my board at home. So I learned a lot of lessons. So what a great guy. I really missed him. He was really a great guy. And I can understand how David feels because he was a mentor to me too. But thank you.
Okay, next we would also like to, we proudly induct Robert Cord of Massachusetts into the Community Action Hall of Fame. Receiving the award in person on behalf of the Cord family is Sharon Scott Chandler, CEO of ABCD.
Good morning, everyone. On behalf of Robert Cord's wife, Donna Cord, who could not be here today, I want to thank David and the National Community Action Foundation for inducting Bob into the inaugural class of the Community Action Hall of Fame. Mrs. Cord has continued to stay close to ABCD since Bob's passing 15 years ago and is extremely grateful he is being recognized alongside his esteemed and distinguished colleagues in community action. In 1964, Bob joined ABCD the same year it was designated as Boston's anti-poverty agency under the Economic Opportunity Act. He went on to lead the organization for 4 more decades as president and CEO from 1968 to 2009. Bob was a passionate visionary who fought for economic justice every day for everyday people, not just in Boston, but all across the country. He was a charismatic activist, a coalition builder who enlisted and empowered so many people in this calling of community action. I am standing here today as CEO because I was one of those people, fortunate enough 25 years ago to be recruited and mentored by Bob at ABCD. But Bob was not just a builder of programs and people, but of institutions. And we know, as we've heard, co-founding NCAF, co-founding Cap Law. He also co-founded a college called the Urban College of Boston, a fully accredited 2-year higher education institution. And Bob was totally and unequivocally committed to the institution of community action itself, and a true partner with David for so many years, which is why he brought many of us to NCAF each year to reinforce the value of political influence and engagement on behalf of the communities we serve. and he was a fighter. There's so many things I could list, but he always told the story of suing the federal government when Nixon tried to put community action out of business. We are grateful that Bob pushed the boundaries of what community action could be, and that he always kept his eye on the big picture. He was larger than life. Thank you again for this wonderful honor, recognizing his life's work, as has been said, and Donna has often told me this never felt like work to him because he loved people and he loved making life better for people. Thank you. Something Bob would do.
That's him.
Wow. Hope Bob's not looking down. Next, I would also like to recognize, to induct Dorothy Count Scroggins of North Carolina into the Community Action Hall of Fame. Receiving the award in person on behalf of Dorothy is Mr. Nick Warden, CEO of the Charlotte Area Fund in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Good morning. It is indeed an honor to stand in the gap in absentia for Dorothy Count Scoggins. She's a board member at the Charlotte Area Fund, and I bring you greetings from our board of directors, our state association led by Sharon Goodson and her wonderful team, as well as the great state of North Carolina. You know, I'm a student of history, and this is perhaps one of the milestones in my career to be able to stand and accept the award in honor of Dorothy Count Scoggins. So think about it for a minute. Let me take you back to 1957. 3 years after the Brown decision was passed, 7 years before the historic 1964 Economic Opportunity Act that brings us all here today. Dorothy Count Scoggins and her family chose to stare down the Jim Crow system in North Carolina and integrate Harding High School. Those 4 days were just notorious. To imagine the hundreds of, quite frankly, white adults and children with faces distorted with hate and anger, sitting at the door, and in fact, the entire system didn't want her to be there. But the dignity of her family made them withstand that pressure and that intense experience for 4 days until the family decided, we can't do this anymore. But let me tell you why this is also an important story. It is really the essence of community action and what her family endured. One quiet story that illustrates this is that imagine one of the greatest literary giants of our time, James Baldwin, had thought to seek refuge in Paris, France, because he thought America was irredeemable in its racism. While he's sitting at one of his favorite cafes, minutes away from the Champs-Élysées, having espresso, he sees a whole stand of newspapers. And in the front page of every newspaper is Dorothy Counts and her family walking their walk. And he's so inspired, he decides to re-engage in the civil rights movement, comes back to the United States, seeks to meet with Dorothy Counts' family, meets with Dr. King, and the rest is literary history. So when I stand here and say I'm so proud to represent her, it is an enormous experience. And in fact, you can see an illustration of her life at the African American Museum. She's been a board member for 14 years of the Charlotte Area Fund, and she's done so much. She is in her 80s now, and while her not being here is not an example of her energy and vigor, she is perhaps one of the most respected community leaders in the state of North Carolina. Those who seek her advice are corporate giants and politicians, because they know that through her lens, she can add value, and she continues to add value. So I just want to say, I know she's watching this, that I am Dorothy Count Scoggins. And I want you all to repeat this because it'll make her heart feel warm. I am Dorothy Count Scoggins. I am Dorothy Count Scoggins. We thank you, thank you, thank you for this honor.
No. Okay. All right, moving on. The Board of Directors proudly inducts Tim Donnellan of Ohio into the Community Action Hall of Fame. We are pleased. There we go. We are pleased to have Tim joining us by Zoom today.
Tim?
Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead. I think you can go ahead.
Okay, I can talk now.
Yeah, you can talk to him.
Oh, hold on a second.
I didn't hear you, Gene.
Uh,
That's the thing about being an Irishman
only
this
one-
close to St. Patrick's Day. Everybody's trying to keep you quiet. But you know, I don't like to.
I think Joe Delaney.
Hey,
is
Tim.
accept-
Tim,
Yes.
you're on. You're on.
Okay,
We
go
can hear
ahead.
you.
Okay.
We've
Here
heard
we go.
everything.
Hey, first of all, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to tell you what a tremendous privilege it feels like to be here this morning, and especially receiving an award from the great state of Ohio. It's really very important to me. And I think about this, the wonderful experiences, and all of the colleagues of mine for so many years. Community action has been an important part of American life. As I ponder this, I realize that the experiences we have had, the friends we have made, and our accomplishments rather, will live in our hearts forever, as well as the experiences and successes of community action under the leadership of David Bradley and the championing of the lives of people in need will live on forever in the lives of the community action, which itself will live on forever. So I want to tell you how grateful I am, how appreciative I am, and what a wonderful feeling it is to be part of this great group of people for so many years. You know, I have said many times, I have a little bit of military experience, and America needs to win the only war we should have been involved with in the first place, the war on poverty. And I think in that sense, we are making tremendous strides. Success in other wars, I don't think there is such a thing. But for us, the successes that we enjoy and that we're all a part of is something that does live forever. So again, I'd like to thank everybody for having me here. And I promised people I would try to be brief. So that's the best I can do with being brief. Thank you, everybody. It's good
Thank
seeing
you, Tim.
everybody.
Thank you.
Very much.
Impressive. Our next award, we proudly induct. Oh, Joe. Hey, I didn't see you there. Sorry, Joe. Well, but you're going to take a picture with us. Come on, man.
Thank you. I said right now I'm not going to try and top Tim. I had the honor of knowing and working with Tim for 35 years. I found him to be a great leader, a great person who was very concerned with the poor and making sure everybody was treated fairly and professionally. He's a very admirable man, and he believed in community action, and he lives community action. Thank you.
All right, the Board of Directors also proudly inducts Ophelia Gaines of Georgia into the Community Action Hall of Fame. We are pleased to have Ophelia here in person, right? We have Ophelia? Yes, okay, great. There we go. Take your time. Please.
First of all, I want to thank everyone who thought I was worthy of this honor. You know, when they talk about putting you in an inaugural class of the community action, that's pretty big business. I remember when I started in 1973, and I thought, well, I'm going to go and I'm going to give it a try. And I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to stay, but I stayed 44 years. And the thing about community action, it was never a job for me. It was just my life. I never regretted ever applying for that position because I felt like that was my life work, and I gave it my best. And to receive this honor, y'all just don't know what that means to me. And David, you about as old as I am. Because you were here when I got here.
Tell the story. Tell the story.
But I want to say thank you, and I want to give honor to my first executive director, Mr. A.C. Harrison, who hired me right out of college and said that he saw something in me, and I'm not sure what he saw, but he said, I want you to be a part of my team. Come work for me. And I did, and I have never regretted it. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. That's the first time I've seen someone shut David up. Wow. The NCAF Board of Director proudly inducts James Hems of New Jersey into the Community Action Hall of Fame. Angel Perez, the Executive Director of the New Jersey Association on Correction, is receiving the award in person on behalf of James, who is joining us by Zoom. Angel? Oh, there we go. How you doing, Angel?
It's an honor to be here accepting this award on behalf of Jim. I've worked with Jim for over 45 years, and in that time he has been a friend and a mentor. He's never stopped caring about the population that he works with. He's pioneered the community corrections field in the state of New Jersey. He has always reached out to anybody who needed anything and helped them. He's just that kind of guy. Again, on behalf of Jim, I want to thank everybody for this honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Continuing, the NCAF Board of Director proudly inducts Gail Hennessy of New Hampshire into the Community Action Hall of Fame. Receiving the award in person on behalf of the Hennessy family is Donna Lee Lazou, CEO of the Southern New Hampshire Services in Manchester. Hopefully I got that correct.
Thank you. Lozo, you were close. Thank you. It is my distinct honor today to be here on behalf of Gail's family, his wife Linda Dunphy, his niece Katie. I will make remarks and Katie will accept the award on his behalf for the family. Our New Hampshire Association, we're a small state, but often we have a big impact. With 5 community actions, our state association was happy to honor Gail. You know, Gail started in community action in 1964. He was a history teacher that loved politics and baseball. And he was recruited to come to the agency as the deputy director. And not long after, within the first year or so, the executive director asked him to swap positions because he'd rather be the deputy and let Gail be the executive director. And that has worked out wonderfully. Gail grew the agency from 4 staff to 400. He believed in the foundation of community action being opportunity. And that opportunity wasn't just for our clients, as important as that was, the people we serve, the opportunity we could provide them, but he also believed in the opportunity that could be provided to staff, to have a pathway in the agency. His niece Katie has been at the agency over 27 years. Yes, she started when she was 4. But she started in the commodity food program and is now part of our leadership team as our innovation strategy director. Our COO, the one that Gail had hired, moved up from a Head Start teacher to the COO. The COO that I currently have started out as an auditor in weatherization. Gail believed that there was a way for all of us to reach out for opportunity and to succeed. I was a Head Start kid. And when he asked me in 2016 to take on his position because he was retiring, I felt like I was coming home. So I'm honored for that. And for NCAF, because Gail, as David knows, believed that the voices of those we serve and the voices of those serving them should be heard by the people that make the decisions, the policymakers and the funding sources. And so he was always a part of starting something up and supporting it on its path to success. So with that, it is our honor to accept this on behalf of him, his family, our state association, and our agency, Southern New Hampshire Services.
All right, continuing as we continue to stand on the shoulders of those before us, the NCAF Board of Directors proudly inducts Kathy Hodgkins of Utah into the Community Action Hall of Fame. Receiving the award in person on behalf of Kathy is Clint Cotham, Executive Director of Community Action Partnership of Utah, and Jennifer Godfrey, CEO of Utah Community Action in Salt Lake City.
Good morning. First off, let me just start by saying what an honor it is to accept this award on Kathy's behalf. She has prepared some remarks for me that she asked that I share. First, I want to thank the Utah State Association of Community Action Agencies for nominating me for this award. I also want to thank David Bradley and the NCAF board for selecting me as one of the honorees. Just being mentioned alongside some of my mentors, such as Charles and Robert Cord, is overwhelming. I want to congratulate all of the other recipients of this inaugural class as I reflect on my 48 years as a community action staff member. I remember going back to the days under President Lyndon B. Johnson and his declaration of the war on poverty. The CAP agencies nationwide have come a long way since the beginning. We enjoyed some great achievements and we've had many challenges and struggles. So much has been accomplished, yet so much remains to be done. It will be up to the current and future warriors to help meet the needs of the people and the communities in which we all serve. They must be kept alive and adhere to the idea that poverty can be eliminated in the land of plenty. I especially want to recognize and thank my staff and the board members who served during my tenure. They gave me their full support in leading the Salt Lake Community Action Program into the future. My predecessor, Hal J. Schultz, instilled in me that I should never give up. His faith in me will always be treasured. I tried to follow his great example, and I am humbled and very proud of this wonderful recognition, and thank NCAF for including me. I am truly grateful. Much love, Kathy. With that being said, I will just share Kathy being an incredible leader in this community. I am honored that she has chosen to mentor me and my team, and thank her for her continued hard work and dedication to the work that we do today.
And I just want to also add that I'm appreciative of Kathy, not only for the work she did at Salt Lake Community Action Program, or UCA now, in the Salt Lake area, but she is also a giant in our statewide network, and the association is so honored to have her recognized for her contributions. Through her work and founding and supporting the state association, all the work we do at our state association continues to benefit everyone in our state network. And she also helped found the association of the Community Health Center Association in Utah. And her impact continues to give statewide. And as an NCAF board member, I know she's a champion nationally for community action. So we're just so honored that she was recognized for all of her achievements. Congratulations, Kathy.
Okay, moving forward. Thank you. I don't know about you, but this is truly emotional for me. Thank you, David. The board also proudly inducts Dana Jones of the District of Columbia into the Community Action Hall of Fame. And we're pleased to have Dana joining us by Zoom today.
All thank NCAF and the staff for recognizing me. I want to say a few things that I hope are received in the spirit that they're given. I came into this as a youngster. My first engagement with community action, I was 16. I had just become the first Black elected high school class president in my county. And the NAACP was concerned about my future, and so they sent me to a leadership development class that was run by the Community Action Agency. Later, as a 19-year-old, I went to work on the Eastern Shore at a community action agency called Shore Up, and that's where I got my start in community action as an employee. 6 years later, as a college graduate, I was hired as the executive director of the Southern Maryland Tri-County Community Action Committee, Inc. I followed Dwayne Yoder, who's being honored today as the executive director of that agency. I stayed there for 24 years and 6 months before I was asked to come to the District of Columbia. I spent another 15 years in the District of Columbia. I can say that Ed set the tone for all the people that I know who have been awarded today. This was never a job. Gene was right. It was a vocation, a calling. You had a sense of purpose. I never felt like I went to work one day in my life. I felt like I belonged there. It was what I was born to do, what I was called to do. And subsequently, the success we had was because we were blessed with some tremendous folks. I was blessed to have been birthed in this movement by founders, people who were on the ground on day one. I worked with founders who were on the ground day one in community action. And subsequently, I want to say to the warriors of the future that please don't lose the spirit of this movement. We were never created to be nonprofit social service agencies. We were created to be a movement that empowered people through economic development, economic opportunity, self-help, by investing in the assets that allow you to support your family, education, skill training, investing in small businesses, home ownership, the tough stuff. Community action was never created for the easy give it away process. Along the way, we've had to use resources in the community to strengthen people, to hold them together, to hold families together. But the intent was always to move them up and out of poverty. Please don't ever forget that. Please don't submit to what I call the easy stuff. The hard work of community action is what has galvanized communities, what has galvanized liberals and conservatives, what has galvanized red and blue states, self-help, self-determination, empowerment, local control, local decision-making. Those are the spirits of this movement. Please don't lose them, because that's the true power of community action. I was blessed to be in the room the day that David Bradley ushered in, through some giants, some congressional giants, the Community Services Block Grant. I was there the day that it was introduced in the conference committee. And I simply want to say that while it has changed and given power to states that they didn't have before, it should never change who we are as a community action agency. Again, thank you for this honor. I just absolutely am amazed at it, but I'm more amazed at the names, Charlie Braithwaite, Bob Cord. Who could ever forget? Who could ever forget Howard Schultz, the great pilot, who we all used to laugh about, flying from place to place. This has been a great moment in my life, but more importantly, to remember and reflect upon. Many of these names have been called out, like Gene Brady. Just absolutely wonderful. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you. Wow, it's like church, really. The NCAF board also proudly inducts Annette Lewis of Virginia into the Community Action Hall of Fame. We are pleased to have Annette with us in person today.
Thank you. Good morning. I would like to first start by thanking and commending David Bradley for the hard work and dedication that he has keeping bipartisan support of community action. Without his hard work, there wouldn't be a community service block grant, and therefore there wouldn't be any community action agencies. So I commend David Bradley. And it is my hope and prayer that the 1,000 community action agency leaders across our country will support and encourage their employees to support NCAF, CAP-PAC, and CAP-FACS. Let's keep, yes. Let's keep community action alive. I want to also thank and commend the 31 community action agency leaders across the state of Virginia. And I want to also thank and commend the association's president, Eric Johnston, the chairman of the board, Kevin Ote, the vice chairman, Brian Phipps, and all of the executive committee members, current and past, and all of our partners on the state level in the state of Virginia who support us so faithfully. And my colleague, who I have worked beside for 20 years, who is now the president and CEO of TAP, Angela Penn, and all of those whose shoulders we stand on, the Ted Edlicks, the Rob Goldsmiths, the Terry Smuzzes, and too many for me to mention, and our employees who work so hard to lift the burden of poverty off of the shoulders of the families we assist, and certainly the families whose lives are better because of community action, and our own personal families who have stood by us and supported us in this battle, this good fight for community action. And my husband, who is here, Reverend Dr. L.A. Lewis, who put up with me and supported me for 35 years. And the families, again, whose lives are better because of community action. I stand here by the grace of God because of all of these people I have mentioned individually and collectively. I'm representing them by accepting this honor of being inducted into the National Community Action Hall of Fame. Thank you.
Wow. A lot of great words here today. Moving forward, we'd also like to proudly induct James Morton of Montana into the Community Action Hall of Fame. And Andrea Olson, Executive Director of the Community Action Partnership of North Dakota, is receiving the award in person on behalf of Jim, who is joining us by Zoom.
Hi, great morning, everybody. Jim Morton served for an amazing 54 years, from 1968 to 2022 in community action with the Human Resources Council in Missoula, Montana. Jim's passion for community action included outstanding outreach and creative approaches towards affordable housing, healthcare, and food security for his community. Jim received numerous awards in housing, including the Montana Housing Lifetime Achievement Award from the Montana Housing Coalition in 2007. He was a founding member of the Montana Housing Coalition, Missoula's At-Risk Housing Coalition, and the Bitterroot Affordable Housing Coalition. Jim earned the certification of high-performing community housing development organization, as well as certifications in tax credits and housing. He's got a depth of knowledge that is outstanding in energy conservation, housing, healthcare, the Public Service Commission, and its history. He is instrumental in the work of the Natural Resource Defense Council, Northwest Energy Coalition, and District 11 HRC in protecting the rights of consumers of Northwestern Energy with testimony and intervening actions at the Public Service Commission. He's been a mentor to many, many staff and members of the statewide association. Jim has a high standard, and working for him made you feel like you were always at the top of your field. An absolute honor to accept this award on behalf of Jim.
Before you go on, I would like, go ahead. Well, like so many others, I'm very grateful for the award. I'm really speechless. And people have asked me so many times, why did I stay? Well, as we all have, it's the passion, it's our colleagues, our coworkers, our board members, our mentors. And I'm just overwhelmed to be part of this group, some of whom I've met, some who I've not, but I've heard about folks through my whole career. And, you know, our network is is full of very talented people. We make it work. We have programs from many federal departments with so many rules and regulations, and our staff figure out how to get that service out to the people that need it. They are always willing to go that extra mile, and I can't be prouder of all of us. And as has been said before, we can't give that up. You know, we're the ones who sometimes get accused of all sorts of things because we stand up for people that are disenfranchised, and we're ridiculed for it, but we keep going, and we have made an incredible impact. And I just want all of you to know across the network, because you're going to hear from all of us, don't give up, keep going. You're a talented bunch of people. Your passion is going to save so many communities. And finally, I live in Missoula, Montana, which is near the Idaho border. And if you go from the mountains of Montana to the prairies of Montana, you're gonna go about 600 miles. In the early 80s, David Bradley came to Missoula, Montana, and he was riding his bicycle, not a motorbike, but pedaling across our great state, visiting community action. And that's commitment. And David, thank you for all we do.
I'm sorry, I can't get that image out of my mind now. David riding a bike. You're right.
I don't know, Harold. I don't know about that one.
All right, that was great. 54 years, we got a ways to go. All right, the NCAF Board of Directors proudly inducts Richard Nation of Nebraska into the Community Action Hall of Fame. We are pleased to have Rick joining us by Zoom today. Rick?
Hello.
Hello.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'm overwhelmed by the honor that this award, and I don't know how to thank everybody. The people at Blue Valley Community Action Partnership have been great folks to work with, and really it belongs to them, any honor that would come to me. But I do appreciate that. I also appreciate the fact that the Community Action of Nebraska nominated me, and I remember the days when it was the Association of Community Action Agencies, and it's been a while. But I want to thank them as well, and of course I want to thank NCAF for selecting me, and David Bradley, who probably has something to say about that. But, and I agree with you, David is one of our real heroes and probably should be in a class by himself. But I wanted to thank everybody. And I also wanted to reiterate what I've heard already today about what community action does for folks. And we certainly hope it continues. We want to see everybody participate, and we owe it not only to our country, but to the people we serve, to the many, many low-income people and needy people around the country that community action has been able to help. And I want to remind people, Lyndon Johnson, Sergeant Shriver, David Bradley, some names we always want to remember. So thank you all.
Thank you. David on a bike. Wow. It's amazing. Okay, the board of directors also in. Oh.
We're escorting it back for you.
Escorting it back for you.
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you, young man.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations.
The next president of the United States. I almost blew that.
You'll be smarter than the last one here.
Yeah, no. They say they want to go younger. So the NCAF Board of Directors proudly inducts James Norman of New York into the Community Action Hall of Fame. And we're pleased to have him by Zoom today. James?
Thank you. Good morning to my Community Action family. I would love to be there, but I had a previous commitment that I had to keep. I'm in Alameda, California, attending the first birthday of my 6th grandchild.
All right, all right. Congratulations.
Thank you. As the other honorees have said, I'm very humble and grateful for being chosen to be a part of this first Hall of Fame class, along with many my esteemed colleagues. I want to thank the Action for a Better Community in Rochester, New York, and the New York State Community Action Association for advancing my nomination, and obviously thank the selection committee for seeing fit to include me. My first contact with the War on Poverty was when my younger brother was a participant in the Head Start program in Augusta, Georgia in 1965. In 1966, I worked for the summer program in Head Start. Later, in graduate school, I studied the origins of the War on Poverty, reading Michael Harrington's book, The Other America, and one of my professors had worked for Mobilization for Youth on Lower East Side, New York City. After grad school, I became a volunteer for the Kalamazoo County Community Action Program. They had a very flamboyant leader named Ed Morris. And so we had 2 busloads of people who came down to Washington, D.C. To protest the Nixon administration's plan to embargo funds that Congress had appropriated for community action. Over the years, I've had the opportunity to work in community action leadership at the local and state level. I want to mention my community action mentor, Ed Rivas. Ed Rivas was often referred to as the father of community action in Michigan. I know of no one who had a greater belief in the power of community action than Ed Rivas. He mentored me, he taught me about the CAP 1, the CAP 7, and all those other instructions we had to follow. And really, he cemented my relationship with community action. For those who've been around a while, you know we've had many attempts for us to be shut down, but we continue because the needs are great and the resolve of the network is strong. I want to encourage all of you to continue to fight poverty until abject and absolute poverty become a thing of the past in these great United States. Last, I want to thank my parents for providing me the discipline, the guidance, and inspiration to follow the career path that I chose. When I was small, they started with sending me and my siblings on holidays to take food to the other neighbors in the community. They believed that if you had what you needed and you had a little bit extra, you should help those who needed a hand up. So again, I thank you for this honor. I'm very appreciative. And you know, going forward, hopefully community action remains strong and broad in its impact in our country. Thank you.
No, thank you. Where there is no conflict, there is no progress. Thank you for your fight, all of you. The Board of Directors also proudly inducts David Severs of Ohio into the Community Action Hall of Fame. Tricia Wilkins, CEO of Northeast Iowa Community Action in Decorah, Iowa, is receiving the award in person on behalf of Dick. Join it. Okay.
As a mentee of Dick, I couldn't be happier to be here to accept this award on his behalf. I started at Northeast Iowa as director in 2017 and was asked by our Iowa State Association who I would choose as a mentor to guide me in my new position. Although I had been with the agency for 10 years already, I didn't know any executive director very well. But as I thought about it and observed one or two state association board meetings, I knew Dick was the best match for me. One of the most important reasons for this is that I knew we didn't think exactly alike. But also, it was very clear that his experience, deep knowledge, and ability to look at all sides was exactly what I needed. Dick was important to our entire group of community action agencies in Iowa, so here's a few comments about him from our colleagues across the state. Ann says, often our work can feel like a hurricane, relentless, perilous, and unpredictable. Dick was always the voice of reason and clarity to help us navigate the storms. From Cindy, I would say his calm demeanor, the ability to look at the big picture, and to always be honest and fair. He had a strong commitment for making prudent financial decisions. And Brenda added, Dick sent me a congratulations card welcoming me to the group. I still have the card. I feel that Dick's greatest impact was keeping us grounded. He has the ability to view all perspectives, which helps eliminate biases, blind spots, and reduce conflict, and solve problems more effectively. And Sherry stated, for me, it was his ability to see the big picture and attention to legislative issues. And finally, Wendy said, Dick's contributions to community action were invaluable. For me, it was his calm demeanor, yet strong presence, and his keen insight on legislative issue. He also provided me guidance and support when I first started as executive director. So once again, I'm incredibly honored to accept this award on Dick's behalf. Thank you.
And we also will have words from Dick as well. Thank you. Yep, Dick's on.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Tricia, for those kind words. I appreciate you accepting on my behalf. I'd also like to thank the board and the staff here at our organization, Mid-Sioux Opportunity. I appreciate all the support from the community action agencies across the state of Iowa. They've been just wonderful to work with over the years. To David and the staff at the foundation, thank you for this honor. I enjoyed very much working with David over the years, discussing community action agency issues as well as baseball on occasion. I'd like to thank all of those who came before me, some of who were Pat Steiger, Lois Iacker, Don Manicia, and Larry Rarrett. They paved the way for folks like me in the state of Iowa, and I appreciate their help very much. So it's an honor for me to be part of this inaugural class, and I thank you very much. It's an honor that I can't express to you adequately, but thank you.
And rounding everything out, last but not least, is we'd like to proudly induct Dwayne Yoder of Maryland into the Community Action Hall of Fame. And we're pleased to have Dwayne in person.
Yoder.
Well, thank you very much. And it is Yoder, which is that's an Amish Mennonite name. So you have to come from that heritage to get it right. Right. So let me first say thank you to the NCAF board. It's absolutely an honor. But it is a recognition that really requires to be shared. And when I look at this list and I see names like Bob Cord and Charlie Braithwaite, these were pillars. They belong in a class by themselves. And I remember as a staffer at Garrett County Community Action, I think in 1972, when the then director came with a directive from OEO giving us a date certain when we were to lock our doors and dispose our equipment. And we know that Charlie Braithwaite sued, Howie Phillips was declared illegal, and the network survived. I remember in 1980 when on the NACA board, Ed Beck, who was then the chairman of the board, a director from California, came to a board meeting after the 1980 election and said, Ronald Reagan, as governor, is proposed to close community action. And he's going to do the same thing nationally. And I know Bob Cord, David Bradley, and others conceived and installed the Community Services Block Grant, which again was a way of our network surviving and growing over time. But the other thing that I want to say is this is shared with personal friends, and sometimes we forget how important personal friendships are in our network. And I think of Maryland, for instance. Dana Jones was a personal friend. Fred Mitchell, Evola Peters, many others. I think nationally, Rob Goldsmith, Jeannie Chafin, Elva, Jane Thomas, people who are gone now, but were personal friends, and they fueled our batteries. They kept our eyes on the North Star. And those friendships are friends who I think I need to share this recognition with. And finally, our local community, our local agencies. Dana mentioned that my first job as an ED was with the Southern Maryland Tri-County Community Action. And I was there for 5 years before moving back to my home community where I was a director for 43 years. And both the staff, the board, and those communities are entities that this recognition needs to be shared with. But most important, in terms of sharing this recognition and actually being awarded the recognition, is the individual, the person who I have been married to for 50 years, and she's here today. Earlene, would you at least wave? Many times, people have mentioned how important and how much a spouse has to give. Well, Earlene is sharing this with me today, and I'm very thankful for that. So thank you again to the NCAF board and to Angela Martin, who nominated for the nomination. I thank you all, and keep the faith.
Wow, saying thank you to all of you is not enough. Not enough. You've given us a lot to look for. I know me personally, I've been touched by your testimonies and by your service. And so the NCAF Board of Directors is thrilled to announce the class of the Community Action Hall of Fame. Please give them a round of applause.